Welcome to Being the Genuine Athlete podcast, where we inspire those who aim for excellence in life and want to understand the how and what it takes to be a champion in life. My name is Jure Koschak. My purpose, dedication, and commitment is to activate your potential, that you understand the ego through your sport and life situations. So I share and give you the tools to be just this, the genuine athlete. Are you ready to tune in? Oh, good. This meeting is being recorded, the lady said.
Yeah, just in case we don't know. That red dot that says recording is kind of tough to understand.
Okay. Hello, dear Morry Zelcovitch, my Canadian friend with a wife from Serbia.
Nice to see you, Jure.
I welcome you in this podcast of Being the Genuine Athlete. I am amazed that this is all coming to this age of the genuinity of being authentic. And that's why I invited you, because I see that you went through your hero's journey in life. And please present yourself to the listeners, viewers.
Sure. So first of all, Jure, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity and the ability to express myself so that people can know a little bit more about me and what I do. My name, of course, is Morry Zelcovitch, and I'm what I call the world's only and first brainwave entrainment engineer. So what I do is I create audio and visual stimulation patterns and techniques that alter people's brainwave patterns. And by altering their brainwave patterns, I alter their neurochemistry. By altering neurochemistry, we alter how people see, think, feel, act, and react to anything around them. It allows them to achieve states of peak performance in anything that they do, whether that's business, sport, relationships, pretty much anything. How it all came to be is, for me at least, it was an interesting story. I hope it's interesting for your viewers and listeners too.
Everybody's having issues in life, and you've used your issues to grow and to find a way, find a solution, and now you're thriving and living. So please share.
Yeah, thank you. So basically, since the first day I became aware of myself, as long as I can remember, I heard thousands and thousands of voices in my head. Kind of like if you're at a concert at the intermission or a sporting event when everybody is just talking all at the same time. That's the kind of noise that I heard all the time. I injured myself hundreds, thousands of times. I lost track. I tried to kill myself at least a half a dozen times. But when you don't succeed at killing yourself, there's usually a reason, and that reason is usually that you don't really want to die. So when I realized I couldn't find a way to die, I had to find a way to live. And that's basically what took me through my journey to find this thing called brainwave entrainment. So I used to go through my life every morning. I'd wake up, I'd cross my fingers, I'd look out the window, and I'd pray that I would see mushroom clouds, like from nuclear weapons. Because if I did see them, it meant I didn't have to live another day. That's how depressed I was. Now, I wasn't diagnosed clinically as depressed, but when you wake up every morning and you want to be dead, that's a pretty good sign that you're depressed. So that was my life. If I saw people laughing, I assumed they were laughing at me, even if they were like a block ahead and facing the opposite direction. It wasn't a pleasant existence. I was good at acting, I guess, because I had friends somehow. I laughed, but I was faking it. I smiled, I was faking it. I became an addict. I was a drug addict. I smoked a lot of pot. I did some coke. I did some acid. I was an alcoholic. I was a sex addict. Pretty much anything and everything that I could do to try to feel better, to try to make myself feel better, to kind of forget, really, everything that was going on in my head, because I had so many negative thoughts all the time going through my head. And then through all of this, though, I realized that I'm not going to end my own life, because, I tried so many times and nothing ever happened. So I realized it's time to figure out a way to make life better, because well, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. So what happened was I went on a camping trip. And until that camping trip, time crawled for me. So I'm sure any one of you knows that if you're not feeling happy, if you're depressed, time crawls. And I kind of feel like I've been alive about 900 years. That's how old I feel because of mental anguish and how slow time passes. Well, this was during my drug addict days as well, and alcoholic days. So I'm drinking some beer and I rolled a big fat joint, and all my friends had gone to sleep. And I said to myself, okay, I'm going to go to sleep after this joint and I'm going to smoke it myself. Because that's what I did a lot. I drank alone, I smoked alone, I did everything alone. Well, the sex I didn't do alone. but that only lasted a few minutes at a time anyway, so it really didn't help in either case. But what happened was I'm sitting around the fire. Well, I'm sitting at the fire and I'm smoking this joint. And I figured in half an hour, the joint will be gone because it was a really big joint. And then I'll go to sleep. Well, when it was time to go to sleep, when I realized time to go to bed now, actually 3 or 4 hours had passed. And that was the first time in my life that I noticed time passing quickly. All the other times it passed really slow. And I remember thinking of the flickering of the flame and the popping sound of the wood. And I kind of connected that might have been what changed my state and made me experience life differently than I ever had. And from that point on, I started studying the brain and how different things have an effect on it, sound and light and this and that. I was reading medical journals and I was reading research papers, neurobiology, neurophysics, neurochemistry, quantum physics. You know, I knew my problem was up here because that's where all my negative thoughts were. So I thought the best way to solve it is to figure out what's going on in my brain and then do whatever is necessary to change it. So I came to the conclusion that it was chemistry. Chemistry was my problem. So the first thing, of course, to try to alter my chemistry was the drugs and the alcohol and the sex. None of that worked. It just made me addicted to things and made my life worse. Then I decided, well, maybe I need to learn how to stop thinking all these negative thoughts. Because one of the things I learned was that your thoughts are another major way that your brain creates chemistry through brainwave activity. So when you have different thoughts, it actually creates neurochemistry. So I tried every way I could think of to alter my thinking patterns. That didn't work either. I got more depressed. Every time I tried something and it didn't work, I got more depressed. And then I came across this thing called brainwave entrainment. And I thought, all the research I'm reading, everything should make a difference in my life. I got very excited, but it didn't help me either. And I got even more depressed. But then suddenly, out of all that depression, a light bulb went on over my head, and it said, you need to study this more and you need to create your own. So that's what I did. I started studying literally anything I could get a hold of related to sound, related to light, and the brain and how it affects the brain, how it works. And I ended up creating my first recording, which sat for a month. Didn't use it because I was afraid, what if it didn't work? That was like the first 2 weeks. Then the second 2 weeks was, what if it does work? What's going to happen? Am I going to screw myself up worse? What's going to happen? I ended up trying it the first time. It was a 30-minute recording. It was, these pulse sounds that I designed and the background noise I designed. And it felt like 30 minutes. And I could hear all the pulses and I was well aware of them all. And I thought, that's nice. So I just spent half an hour and months and years researching, and nothing happened until about 5 minutes afterward, when I suddenly realized the voices were coming back in my head. For the first time in my life, I didn't have voices. And the cool thing is that I didn't even notice it. It felt normal not to have them. And that's when I realized I was onto something. And since then, I haven't stopped. I created my first system, which was called Quantum Mind Power. And I've just been creating systems one after another for different purposes, for different people. I'm literally addicted to creating these systems that can help people to help themselves, because all of my systems aren't designed around my genius. They're designed around yours, because it's all about your brain. And your brain is the ultimate tool in your ability to be happy, to be successful, to perform in any way, shape, or form. So I realize I went on a long time through that, but I hope it explains to people and gives them an idea of the dynamic of what was involved in the creation of my technology and how I went from someone who wanted to be dead to someone who now wants to live forever.
Thank you for being open, vulnerable, and sharing in a short version story, such a long thing that you went through because you were living a Groundhog Day. A lot of people are living a Groundhog Day. If you watch the Bill Murray movies from 1993, The Quarantine is a Groundhog Day. And then there's a new movie, Palm Springs, 1 year old. It also shows this being taught in this Groundhog Day of repetitive state of mind the same day. People are living it prior to 2020. A lot of people were living it unconsciously because, you know, we have different factors, different jobs, different assignments, and you think that every day is different, but you live in a cage. You live lost. And a lot of athletes are living more aware also prior to 2020. They are aware that everything is repetitive. Like an athlete, you need to repeat the same training, the same nutrition, the same sleep schedule, the same shit story every day. And you're so tired of it. And nothing gives you that feeling of the void. Like you mentioned, addiction. A lot of athletes are addicted to PlayStation, to pornography, to food, to different kinds of stimulants that just deplete them, and they just give them more of the dopamine and the chemistry, like you mentioned. So you've gone through a lot, but you explained here. I'm going to touch some points and would like you to expand maybe more about connect in every question, or the question that I'm going to ask now, the story of the negative pole, and then how and what this brain entrainment. And please, just in the between, spell entrainment. How is it spelled?
It's right up here. ENTRAINMENT. A lot of people say brainwave entertainment. Yeah, but it's entrainment. All entrainment really means is like a monkey see, monkey do. So if you have something doing this, and this is your neuron, then eventually what happens is they go in synchronicity.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what entrainment is. One thing following another thing.
So we are actually, as an athlete, if you focus on athletes, if you can look through that specter perspective, is we are always entrained in a way. It depends on the level and the density and the intensity of the hormones and chemistry that entrain and trap us.
Yes.
So either you want to be fool and a crazy person, or you want to be a wise person. So raising that bar of the threshold of having the right wiring or the right chemistry. So how does your this and brain entrainment, what does it do in the brain? So if a person that's completely, as mentioned, an athlete, addicted, doesn't know that he's addicted, he just knows that something's missing, or she just knows something missing. It's like athletes are also very sexually active in a way. Coaches, I would not even go there. So in that sense, what does it do in the brain? You start to listen to this, like with these headphones that you have on, there's sounds, different sounds of rain, of my girlfriend says that they sound like a conveyor belt or something. You can have it on a low volume or?
Yeah, generally speaking, I would tell people if they have issues to listen at a very low volume to start with, because it's kind of like volumes of gas pedal. Sure. Yeah.
Okay. And what does it do in the brain?
So what it does is, as I alluded to before, it actually makes your neurons, which are your brain cells, pulse at a specific frequency. So when people talk about brainwave states, they talk about alpha, beta, theta, delta, gamma. All this really dictates is how many times your neuron or your brain cell is pulsing a minute electric current every second. So if it's alpha, it might be 10 times a second. If it's theta, it might be 5 times a second. If it's delta, it could be 2 times. If it's, gamma, it might be 40 times. If it's beta, it could be 28 times. I mean, there's lots of variation in between, but it depends on how many times it pulses that electric impulse every second.
Electricity in the brain.
Yes, very minor amount, very small. But the amount of times it pulses per second tied in with the location in the brain, dictates the kind of chemistry that is released. So endorphins and hormones and neurotransmitters. And let's say, are you a good cook, Uri?
Yeah, I like to cook, yeah.
Okay, I am not a good cook. So let's say someone gave you a box of ingredients and they gave me a box of the same ingredients. And you said, okay, that's great. Fresh tomatoes, fresh onion, fresh meat, fresh this, fresh that. And I have all the same stuff you have, eggs, everything. I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm going to create something that probably tastes like crap. You have a passion for creating and cooking. So you're going to take it out and you're going to make a beautiful dish. It's going to look nice. It's going to taste great. We have the same ingredients, two different results. This is what happens with people's brains. So as in my case, or in an athlete's case, let's say when you're in a slump, because athletes of all types go into slumps. You're either a runner or you're a climber or you're a hockey player or you're a baseball player, you're a football player, a soccer player, whatever. You can hit a slump. And that's when your thought processes get stuck into a certain routine that they produce brainwave activity that creates chemistry that allows you to feel like nothing's going right. It makes you think too much. It makes you act too much so that you're not in the zone anymore. You're not in flow. You're not in that state of flow anymore. What brainwave entrainment does is it subtly alters your brainwave activity, which then alters your chemistry, and that alters how you feel and act. You don't have to study something. You don't have to take notes. You don't have to read a book. You don't have to write tests. You don't have to get trained in brainwave entrainment, because when you listen to the recordings through ordinary headphones, just like these, it automatically makes your neurons, your brain cells, act and react the way that I intend them to, which helps you. It's kind of like, instead of me cooking and I don't know what I'm doing anymore, you say, hey, Morry, take 3 liters of this, take 2 grams of that. You know, you're telling me what to do now.
In tune, you get aligned.
Yes. Yeah, you get aligned. You get into the zone. You get into the flow. And this happens naturally because the truth of the matter is your body and your mind are designed to operate in flow and in synchronicity all the time. They're not designed to have problems. They're not designed to make you nervous or agitated or perform poorly. They are designed for you to feel great. And that's why that's why you feel good and that's why you feel bad. Because feeling good is a sign that you're on the right track, and feeling bad tells you you're not. So if you're an athlete and you're having a hard time and you're nervous and you're agitated, don't think that that's bad. If you instead have the attitude, this is good because it's telling me something is off. And now that I know something is off, I can look at what I'm doing honestly and go, this is what I'm doing wrong. Maybe I shouldn't be having that coffee, 2 hours before I race, or maybe I shouldn't be having that toke, just before I do this, or maybe I shouldn't be eating all these carbs when I'm eating these carbs. It's like we do so many things to hurt ourselves that we don't realize we're doing to hurt ourselves. And much of that happens because of our brain chemistry. Because our chemistry, you have to wrap your head around this. It is your chemistry that lets you feel things. You do not feel good. You do not feel bad. You do not feel excited. You do not feel bored. You do not feel aroused. You do not feel, turned off, unless it passes through your brain first. Your brain creates the chemistry, which then allows you to experience that feeling. The same thing goes with fear. And the same, because if you'll notice, the people who are the very best at what they do, often, the people that we're told are so talented naturally, these are the people that don't think about what they're doing. They don't play chess in their minds, right? For me to be a good athlete, I have to pay attention to my position. I have to pay attention to the body position, to the muscle tension, to this, to that. I have to pay attention to all of this if I'm going to be a decent athlete. But a really good athlete, someone who's a natural, doesn't think about any of this. They just do it.
They have the chemistry.
That's right. They are naturally producing the chemistry that allows them to feel in the zone, that allows them to not question every move they make, that allows them to not punish themselves if they make a mistake.
Now
right?
The question, allows the athlete or an athlete always working hard, not making the cut, or barely sometimes having a result, and like mainly being in the average zone or something, they are already having the wired chemistry that nothing works for them, that they're a loser, or they need to work twice or triple as hard as everyone else, that life is not fair. So this chemistry and consequently the messages, the programs are coming out.
That's
So
right.
you say you confirm and you, what's the word? You explicitly say that this works, so that they begin
Yes,
to listen to this and their brain is getting rewired. Chemistry
that's
is
correct.
beginning to be
Right.
synchronized.
Because it's the chemistry, remember, that makes them feel like they're less than perfect or they're not as good as the next person. It's that chemistry that's making them feel that way. That's all it is. So when you alter your brainwave activity, even subtly, that will alter your brain chemistry. And when it alters your chemistry, you will just naturally feel differently and you'll naturally feel better. And you won't even notice it until you score a couple of goals when you never scored goals, or until you cut 3 seconds off your time, or until you find yourself, running, say, I don't know, 2-3 kilometers farther in the same amount of time, or feeling less tired.
Now I can share a personal story which your sounds that I'm listening. I'm not as consistent, but I do listen to them. And what has happened in the past 2 months since I've met you, and that I started to listen to some of these sounds, sometimes for sleep, and mainly I have that. You'll explain later that I don't forget the monaural and some other different types.
Isochronic.
Okay. Yeah, you'll explain the difference. But my experience is, I was an athlete, professional table tennis player. I loved swimming for my whole life. I learned how to swim when I was age of 5, 6 of age or something. But I never swam because my legs were heavy. I didn't know the technique. I loved being in the water. Although I have some fear of drowning, but like subconsciously, whatever, previous life, whatever the case. But what happened this past 2 months, I started to listen to the sounds and I started to go swim again, which I had the chance, I had the option. I was swimming last year in the quarantine in the ocean, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, like tops 300 meters or something in the nice calm waters. But now I had the option already a couple of months ago to start swimming. I didn't. Now I did. I went into the swimming pool and I just swam. First time I was like, oh, I never swam more than a kilometer. And I was like swimming 500 meters and I was resting after 200 meters. I was barely breathing. I like my low condition or something. I was like, what's that? And then the next time I swim easy 1 kilometer. Then the next time I go swimming, I swim easy 1.5 kilometers. And I'm like, why didn't I continue? Then the next time I swim easy 2 kilometers. Then the next time, it's like in 2 or 3 days, like the consistency. Then the next time I swim easy 2.5 kilometers. Then the next time I swim easy 3 kilometers. It's like the thing that you're mentioning happened to me with swimming, because before I never swam more than a kilometer. And I was choking myself swimming. Now, of course, I applied different technique a bit. I use the spinal wave. I use just one kick with my leg. Yes, it's technique, it helps, but why did I use this now? How can I just go? Because my chemistry is different. My chemistry was always in my life, just do enough. Just do that it's seen on the outside that you did enough. I always felt I had a crazy voice, a song in my Elvis Presley song, that is, in my head. I was training table tennis or doing university academic things or anything like a project. And in my voice, in my head was like, what's that song of Elvis Presley?
He's got fake. A few.
You're a fake, or what's it? They will see that you're a fake or something like that. Pretender.
Pretender,
yeah. Pretender, yeah. So I always connected this being fake. And I'm like, they will see through you, you're an imposter. I always had this like voice that I'm not good enough, but I always just do good enough.
Yeah.
It's like crazy chemistry. And I've been working on myself for many years since I remember. I was reading books in 1995. That's more than 25 years ago on internal balance and confidence and things. But with these sounds, something is rewiring, something is changing, and I'm getting new things, new approaches. There is the voice that's preventing me to be consistent. What about that?
Well, nothing happens overnight that's good. Earthquakes happen right away. Tornadoes happen right away. Hurricanes happen. Well, I mean, they don't happen right away, but when they hit, it's like right away. Everything that's good takes time. When you make love and you make a child, it's one cell, it's two cells, then it's four cells, then it's 8 cells, then it's 16 cells. I mean, it takes a while. So you have programming, and we all have programming from people, from experience, from the news, from this, from that, from everything that tells us what is possible and what is impossible. And depending on what we get told enough of, we get told these things, and they are either possible or impossible. Some people are, grow up and they're allowed to color outside the lines in their coloring book. And other people are yelled at if they color outside the lines. If they make the sky orange instead of blue, if they make the water purple instead of blue, or, you have had situations or circumstances in your life that have taught you lessons, and you believe them. And because you believe them, they either help you or they hold you back. And in most cases, for most of us, these belief systems hold us back. And they're not necessarily true. But if we believe them to be true, then our experience will reflect that. If you believe you're not a fast runner, then you will not be a fast runner. In other words, if you run on your own, you might actually run faster than if you run in a competition. Because if your belief is, I'm not as fast as so-and-so, and I do the 100 meters in, I don't know, let's say 8 seconds, which I realize isn't world record speed or anything.
100 meters is 9 seconds something.
9 seconds. Okay, so let's say 9 seconds. Let's say I can run the 100 meters in 12 seconds or 13 seconds. And that's my best time. But when I race against you, I do it in 15 seconds. Because my belief is I'm not as fast as you are. So when I see you, I'm subconsciously hindering myself. I'm slowing myself down. The same thing with you in swimming. You believe that you're afraid of drowning. So that's always in the back of your head. It's screwing up your stroke, your technique, your form. The minute you start feeling more comfortable, the minute that fear of failure, the minute that fear of drowning goes away, now your muscles are more relaxed. When you do the strokes, you're doing everything nice and smoothly, and you're more streamlined in the water. You said your legs are heavy. So when you were swimming, your legs were probably doing this. This would be your body flat in the water. This is how a swimmer is, and you're like this, which creates a lot of friction, right? A lot of drag. It's slowing you down. Even if you're kicking your legs, you're still drag. But now that you're more relaxed, you're more streamlined with the water, you're creating less resistance, same amount of energy creates much stronger effect. I had a guy in Greece who called me up. He was scared because every morning he swims to and from an island. It takes him about an hour and a half to swim out, takes him an hour and a half to swim home. Well, he did the swim in an hour and a half both ways, and he got scared. And I told him, don't be scared. You were in the zone. You were you weren't thinking, were you, about your stroke? You weren't worried about your stroke, were you? He goes, no, actually, I was just enjoying the air and the feel of the water on me. And I asked him, have you ever felt like that before? And he goes, no. I said, that's your secret. You weren't concerning yourself with the mechanics. You weren't beating yourself up if your elbow wasn't quite high enough, or if it dragged in the water a little bit. You weren't beating yourself up for all these things. As a result, you were just doing it instead of trying to do it. When we try, that's resistance. When we just do it, there's no resistance. And you will always perform better when you just go ahead and do something rather than trying to do something, because trying opens you up for failure. Trying says, well, I tried. I didn't succeed, but I tried. I feel good that I tried. And you should feel good that you made the attempt and that you did something. But when you stop trying and you just let yourself do it, you'll find that you'll improve faster because you're not judging yourself anymore. And again, the judgment comes from brain chemistry. The truth is, if you know anyone in your life who is cold, they don't seem to have emotional reactions to anything, chances are the information being processed by their brain isn't producing the neurochemistry that nature intended them to produce. That's why when a man gets aroused, certain things happen. That's why when a woman gets aroused, certain things happen. Physiological things happen because of brainwave activity. And not just things like that. Everything happens. Muscles flex, muscle tension, rate of exhaustion, how tired you are. I can't tell you how many people who use my recordings report to me that when they're done doing what they do, they're not as tired as they were and they recover faster. And again, that's because of here. Yes, the recordings are helping them to get into those states, but it's their brain that is creating the ultimate state using the sounds to get there, but it's still you. It's still your brain. A lot of we're all coaches in a way for ourselves and for everybody, but the best coaches are the ones who let you know that you're the one who has to listen to me and then follow through in order to benefit.
I might add something here. Sorry to interrupt.
No.
And the whole time I'm doing this, so I'm being brain entrained with you. Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
That's one thing. And then the other thing that you mentioned now, a lot of athletes are not brain entrained because they themselves have the issue of their chemistry that's not on top. Their coaches maybe have, maybe don't. They cannot build out and bring out the chemistry that's needed. So mainly the students, the athletes are not doing this when the coach is giving the instruction. They are doing the resistance inside or doing the flipping of the eyeballs. Yeah. And there is one good saying: if you fail in your attempt as an athlete doing something, try doing it as your coach told you to do it the first time. Yeah. In that sense, but that requires also some frequencies that you are able to recognize and to accept and to resonate with what your coach is giving you. So imagine the capacity bringing in this brain entrainment method into the athlete world, what it will bring out. Can you imagine, can you envision what kind of competitions will be? Because what we see now is a lot of failure, is a lot of the person or the team that wins made less mistakes. It's not like they're competing in being better. It's like who made less mistakes. Pretty much, yeah. Who was less of a failure. It's like sometimes I hold my head, not judging, but I was an athlete myself, and I was, my brain chemistry was, I thought that I cannot make a mistake. And then I watched Olympic and world champions from Sweden, per se, back in the 90s, and they were doing mistakes. And I was like, I'm allowed to do a mistake as a table tennis player, but not understanding the failure in this. But can you imagine something higher, what I'm touching now regarding failure? What kind of an athlete sport competitions world would be, and training for competitions would be being brain entrained, brainwashed in the positive way, chemistry, connected, flipping coins, resonating, synchronized. What do you see?
Well, that's the thing, right? I mean, look, everything is science, everything is math. It is. I mean, even if you don't like science and you don't like math, it's still a fact that you need to take steps in front, one in front of the other if you want to move forward. If you want to go back, it's one this way. If you want to go sideways, it's this way. I mean, everything is physics. So if you understand why you act the way you act, why you think the way you think, why you do what you do, then you will be better prepared than the person next to you who doesn't understand why they do these things. You know, even the ultimate athlete who has it all natural, you know, you have to work hard to get yourself well and to get yourself performing really well. But the person next to you doesn't even think about it. They just do it and it happens. Well, you know what? In 3 months and 6 months and a year, when you both experience droughts, when suddenly things aren't easy and things aren't going well, you are more likely to come out of it faster because you have taken the time to understand the dynamics of why things go well for you and why sometimes they don't go well for you. In my mind, there's no such thing as failure unless you don't learn from it. If you learn from it, it's an education. And the person who never fails or never gets the education is the person who won't know what to do when something different happens, right? They won't have a clue how to adjust. What do I need to do to get that top spin in my return shot anymore? Because I was just doing it and it was working great. All of a sudden, in your example, you have the paddle, maybe it's like this, and you're doing this, right? And you're kind of going over at a certain angle, but you're not really paying attention to what you're doing because it just is natural process. What if now, instead of your paddle like this, it's like that, just a couple of degrees off? All of a sudden, that throws the mechanics of everything you're doing off. The same thing with running. It's the same thing with skating. It's the same thing with throwing.
A lot of athletes, I come from a country where there's a lot of ski jumping. And we had World Cup champions, and then the next year or 2 years later, they cannot jump anymore. It's like 20 meters less. It's like, where did they lose themselves? Oh, it's the technique, it's the suit, it's this. It's brainwave. So continuing that way, just connected with what I said now and what you said, how can someone have that and then they just lose it?
Because this is, you see, no one just has anything and just loses it. They're on the verge of losing it the whole time because they have that doubt inside of them. They expect to hit a slump. They expect to lose their mojo, if you will, or to lose their focus. It's expected because the best players in the world, the best athletes in the world, all of them go through periods, well, not all of them, but most of them go through periods where they're not very good. So it's expected. They expect it. In the back of their heads, they're seeding. They planted seeds and it takes a while to grow. But that's brainwaves, exactly. And you can create a situation like, look, just like when you're planting a seed, if you want a plant to grow, you want to make sure lots of air gets into the soil. You want to make sure there's lots of nutrition, just like in your body. You want to make sure there's lots of clean air and you want to make sure there's lots of nutrition. If you suddenly don't have that nutrition and that clean air, you're not going to be able to perform very well. But you can't blame yourself for that. That's maybe you stopped eating properly. Maybe you're not exercising the same way or as well as you were. Maybe you got too cocky thinking, I'm way too talented. I don't need to do this stuff anymore because everybody says how good I am. Especially when you're an athlete, you have to be very cautious because there's a lot of hero worship in athletics, right? There's so many athletes out there that have deals with running shoe companies and with clothing companies. And, it blew me away when I started getting involved in athletes, like with helping them, how many athletes that I've never heard of have deals with running shoe companies and with this company and with that company, and even car companies. They do ads for car companies. So a lot of the money that comes in that helps you to train and helps you go to the Olympics is coming from corporate clients, corporate sponsors. So it's in your best interest to understand why you are succeeding or why you're not succeeding so that you can change things so that you do succeed. If you want to keep your sponsor, you have to keep winning. You have to keep producing at a certain level. So why not do it the easy way instead of the difficult way? Why not bypass the deep slump? Look, it doesn't mean you're not going to have periods of time where you're not quite as good as you were, but why not have those periods fewer, farther between, and less invasive? Just by understanding your brain. And listen, with what I do, literally, it's what you said, ordinary headphones. These headphones cost me $12 Canadian, okay, on Amazon. They're average, ordinary headphones. I put them on, I hit play on my device, I put my head back and I close my eyes. That's it. That's all I do. Everything else happens automatically because the brain has a feature called the frequency following response. Remember when you said you were doing this and you were in training to what I was saying? It's the same thing with music. People do this to music all the time and they don't realize they're doing it. They tap their feet, right? They move their body, they sway to the music. That's entrainment. So anyone who doesn't believe in us when we talk about entrainment, You need to know that you've been trained already many times in your life, whether you realize it or not. One of the reasons why we close our eyes, I'm just trying to give concepts for people so they understand why entrainment works. Do you know why you close your eyes when you go to sleep?
No.
Yeah, and neither did I until I started studying, but it makes perfect sense. The reason why we close our eyes when we go to sleep is because when we close our eyes, it slows down our brain waves. It prepares us for sleep. It literally prepares you. So I'm thinking, I'm talking, I might be dominant in a very fast brainwave state, maybe beta. And then as soon as I lie down and I close my eyes, I'm removing a whole bunch of stimulation from myself. And the minute that happens, my brain waves just start slowing down. You don't need training to learn how to close your eyes. You don't need evidence to prove that your brain state influences your performance. Because if you bother to pay attention, and this is what a lot of us don't do, if you bother to pay attention, you will learn exactly why everything happens to you the way it happens to you. And that's the trick. I encourage the best athletes in the world, in my mind, and the ones that I work with, I always encourage them, when you do something well, replay it in your mind and see what you did, and pay attention to your mood and pay attention to your attitude at the time and the conversation you had before you went on the court, or before you went on the field, or before you went on the rink, or before you went on the gym floor, whatever it is, whatever you're doing, kind of nuance it down, figure out everything you did and everything you felt like doing. And you know what's even more important than that? When you don't perform the way you want to perform, piece that apart too. Ask yourself, what did I do? What was I doing? And this isn't a matter of being superstitious, because a lot of athletes are superstitious, right? You got to wear the same shirt. You got to have the towel over the same shoulder.
That's also chemistry, right?
But that creates negative chemistry, superstition, because you end up putting too many things can change that happen. The sun isn't the same as it was when you succeeded. The moon is different. The stars aren't in the same position in the sky. The person in the audience wasn't there. They were there the time you did well, but that person isn't there now. There's too many things that can get in the way with superstition, because superstition plays havoc with your brain waves. Because believe me, affirmations work. What you believe works. If you're not getting the results you want, it's because you don't believe in yourself, or you believe in the negative result of yourself. But the truth of the matter is, if you pay attention to when you succeed and you pay attention when you don't succeed, those are the valuable lessons that will help you to understand why you succeeded and why you didn't succeed. Because everything is science and math. Like I said, you just look at the circumstances. What was I doing? Is it repeatable? If I keep doing this, will I do better? And that's one of the reasons why we train, not just to train the muscles and to exercise and to get into good shape, but it's to learn our reactions to different stimuli. Because if you add that to your training, you start thinking about everything in your mind. I trained today. I was going at it for an hour and a half. I feel amazing. I woke up in the morning and I'm ready to go. And then the other time I'm training, I wake up and I'm achy. And so what's the difference? Ask yourself the difference. Don't just go, oh, I feel like crap today. Ask yourself, why do I feel like crap today? Pick your day apart. What did I do differently today than I did yesterday? Maybe it's something I ate. Maybe I pushed myself a little too hard on one machine rather than on another machine. Maybe I did this. Maybe I had sex before and I did really well. And I didn't have sex and I didn't do well. Maybe I had an argument with my wife or boyfriend or husband or girlfriend, on a few hours before. All of these things influence your mind, and all of these things that influence your mind influence your body, and that influences how you perform.
Yeah, very good put to the terms. And athletes, as I see, are sort of now waking up. I will connect 2 points and make it the 1 point. Like a lot of people, yesterday I had an experience with one lady listening to some radio or some Zoom praying church, iglesia, mass going on. And it's like, she's an elder lady, and it's like a lot of people are very religious. They repeat the prayers, nothing wrong with that. But it's like
Sure.
it's a cocoon, it's a bubble that you live in, and you just even further limit yourself for something that's working. Because that lady didn't give me a smile. She didn't nod to me. She didn't say even hi. She was disturbed because I sat next to her in a park or something.
Yeah.
It's like, but you're praying. So God is love. God is whatever religion you are, it's eternity, it's infinite love, in a way, infinite light. But you're repeating something like athletes. If I connect the dots with athletes, they are so ingrained in repeating some patterns and some things. It's insanity how insane they are. They expect results and they are blocking themselves like, oh, this is not working. I don't even want to try it. Or they don't even look for what they don't know that they don't know, that they will finally know that they don't know what they don't know. They are blocking themselves from all of these things. And now to get to the main point, the pandemics or pandemics or whatever it is or was or still is and still will be for the next few years is the agenda that actually athletes, if we focus on this, are beginning to wake up, are beginning to understand that this Groundhog Day of repetition, that this suffering is not necessary. A lot of athletes
Right.
have stopped. They have stopped being an athlete because they've lost the intriguing, the interest because there's no competition, or they don't know because there's a lot of uncertainty. So finally, we are bringing the light, this information out because it's so much necessary. Why do you want to suffer? If you said, do it the easy way, it's still going to go through some things and through some shit. You're still going to go through something, but why are you putting rocks when you're swimming on yourself? Why are you holding 3 rackets if you just need 1 racket? Like literally heavy arm and things. Why aren't you using these things? So what's your last thought or inspiration impact to all of the athletes that are listening or non-athletes as well to finally break that ice, to break through those crazy walls of insecurity and begin to be brainwashed and brain entrained and to step into this new future that we all live into, the abundance, the thriving, the connection, finally living what we came here to do, to experience life.
People say that knowledge is power. I say understanding is superpower. Knowledge is, I'm not even sure knowledge exists. I think we have a better understanding today than we had yesterday. But tomorrow we have a different understanding, and the day after another different understanding. So that makes me wonder if there's such a thing as the truth, or there's such a thing as a fact. I think the fact and the truth changes depending on the day, the week, the month, the year, and the individual. So if something is working for you, it feels right for you, it doesn't mean it's going to work for me. Your truth isn't my truth. So when you are being trained, when you are training yourself, when you are using your mind and your body together, remember that you are one with whatever you believe. You're one with the universe, you're one with God, you're one with whatever. And you are supposed to succeed because success feels good. You know, everything in our world has sensors in it, right? Your car has sensors. It tells you if their brake fluid's low, if your steering fluid's low. It tells you this, it tells you that. We have thermometers to tell us if we're too hot. We have blood pressure cuffs to tell us if our blood pressure is off. We have blood glucose meters to tell us if our blood sugar is off. We have oxygen meters. You get the idea. We have all these things to tell us what's going on and to monitor our situation. The only reason why we have all these things is because we were born with all these things too. We were born with sensors. We were born with the ability to tell if something is good for us or bad for us. And the way we tell is if it feels right or not. Think about it. If you break your leg and you don't feel pain, you might not go to a doctor. You might not do anything about it. You might just get up and start walking on it. Then it might get infected and you might have to have it amputated, and then you're in a wheelchair for the rest of your life, or you're wearing a prosthetic. Because it hurts, you go to a doctor, you go to a hospital, they set it, they put it in a cast, and you heal. Pain, discomfort is good. Go away from all the standard ways of thinking that you have been taught because your parents were taught and your grandparents were taught and everybody was taught these things. Understand that pain and discomfort are sensors built into us to keep us from being worse. And that goes for mental stress too, not just pain coming from physical stress, pain that comes from our mental stress. Hey, I had 40 years of being severely depressed, of wanting to be dead. Today, I'm grateful for all of it. Because when I finally woke up and smelled the coffee, as they say, I learned that there were lessons that were trying to be taught to me. So when you experience a failure, when you don't perform as well as you wanted to perform or as well as you thought you could perform, understand that there's a message there. And that message isn't to put you down. It isn't to say you're not good enough. It's to say, hey, you can be better. And here's how. And all you really have to do is open your eyes. That's one of the things that brainwave entrainment did for me. It allowed me to see the world as it really is, as opposed to how I thought it was. And the way I thought it was because of other people. Other people said, Morry, you have a big mouth. Morry, you're stupid. Morry, you're never going to amount to anything. Morry this, Morry that. And especially when you're in athletics, I played goal in hockey for a number of years. And I was, I guess, okay. But I kept getting told I sucked and I was bad. And I did things that made me bad because I started to believe what I was being told on the outside. The truth is, if you're doing anything, it's because you want to do it. And if you really don't want to do it, then you shouldn't be doing it. But most of us, when we're athletes, we're players, we're members of teams, we're, in individual sports like tennis or table tennis or whatever, we're doing it because we have joy doing it. So that's the biggest thing. I want you all to have joy. And if you're not enjoying it, then you need to ask yourself, why am I not enjoying it? And most of the time, it's because of people around you giving you messages that aren't you, but telling it to you enough times so that you believe it is you. But I'm telling you that it isn't you if it doesn't feel good. So I want you to feel good, because if you feel good, you'll perform much better than you ever have. And you'll have so much joy doing it. It'll just be a constant process of feeling better, doing better, feeling better, doing better, feeling better, doing better. It's all about the joy you get. Okay. I understand many of you might be out in this for money, but I'll tell you something. You're not going to make a lot of money if you don't enjoy what you're doing. So that would be my biggest takeaway. If you get nothing else from this interview, from this talk, I want you to start recalibrating what you're looking at and why you're doing what you're doing, and also to investigate, and don't just let things happen around you. Oh, today wasn't my day. That's BS. If it wasn't your day, there was something going on that made it not your day. And if you study that and you learn what it is, you can avoid it and even use it to your betterment and use it to your advantage the next time. You're always better than you think you are. And it's the thinking that's holding you back. Just like for the elite athletes that all of you are inside are. They're always at their best because they know they're at their best. The only difference between them and you is you don't know it yet, but I believe you can.
Great. And I will only add, who understands is happy. Now let's finish with the technical part. I will add the link below this podcast, the audio or the video version that athletes or anyone can tap into and to get subscribed or get some demo as well so that they can listen to and try it out. And please describe the mono and ISO or something, the difference now, maybe some technical things in short. Like you already mentioned, just the headphones, listen, try it out, and you'll feel the difference.
Yeah, everything happens automatically because of this frequency following response. So you don't have to judge yourself. You don't have to worry, is this working? You can fall asleep while you're listening. It makes no difference at all. Everything happens automatically. You can't ask for an easier way to train. I'm asking you to lie down, put on headphones, hit play, close your eyes. That's it. That's all I want you to do. Now, there are different stimulation techniques. I'm actually working on about 20 new ones right now, but the most popular ones are known as binaural beats, isochronic tones, and monaural tones. Now, I only use isochronic and monaural tones. The reason for that is with a binaural beat, you don't actually hear a tone. You do. It sounds like ba, 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 just like all the other tones. But with binaural beats, it works like this. Ba, 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 ba. So you heard when I was imitating the tones, if I only had one headphone on, I had one tone, a steady tone, and then another steady tone, but they were different frequency. With a binaural beat, it creates the ghost image of a pulse based on the difference in the tone. So if this tone was 10 hertz and this one was 12 hertz, you'd hear ba, 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 you'd hear two. So you'd hear the difference. The problem with binaural beats are that they are relatively ineffectual when it comes to brainwave entrainment because they have a very low peak and a very low valley. There's very little difference between the peak and the valley. There's no amplitude, there's no power. Imagine someone golfing and they swing and they hit the ball 3 meters, and then someone else hits the ball and it goes 300 meters. That's the difference between an isochronic tone and a monaural tone and a binaural beat. The binaural beat is the 3 meter and the 300 meter is the isochronic and monaural. Now, the difference between isochronic and monaural is you can kind of imagine that isochronic is like a brick. So you have the sides up and down, and then the top. So it's almost like this shape. Okay. It's like a brick shape. A monaural tone is like a wave. So it's like a hill. It kind of goes up and then it gently goes down, and then it goes up and it gently goes down. So with an isochronic and monaural tone, the peak and the valley are the same, or they can be just as tall. But the difference is with an isochronic tone, it's a little bit stronger because it drops off a cliff. Whereas with a monaural tone, it's a gentle ride down and then back up. Ultimately, when it comes to monaural isochronic tones, it doesn't matter which you choose. It's the one that's most comfortable for you. Your brain will always know what is best for you. And you just have to pay attention. Whatever you like best is going to be what's best for you. With me, I use isochronic tones because isochronic tones are stronger for me because I like the sudden start and the sudden stop. Many people prefer the monaural tone because the monaural tone is much smoother on the nervous system. Okay. So if you have the choice, you should always listen to both and decide which one feels better to you. Just because isochronic are stronger doesn't mean you shouldn't use monaural. If monaural feels better for you, it will actually work better for you also.
Okay, great. Thanks for that explanation. And now for the finish off, where can people find you? What's the page?
Well, if they want to look me up, they can check me out at themorrymethod.com. So that would be THE, M like Mary, ORRY, M like Mary, E like Europe, THOD like Dennis.com. And if you're contacting me through this, then definitely let me know that you're associated with Ure, because I have special deals that I've created with him because we're working together. So if you just buy from my site, you will not necessarily get the ideal system for you, and you will definitely not get the same good price.
Thank you very much, Morry, for your time, for your effort, and thank you for all the shit that you went through.
Absolutely a pleasure, and I'm grateful for it all.
Because it was a good fertile soil for this amazing method.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to have been here, and thank you again for the opportunity. Thank you for tuning in. Follow me on Being the Genuine Athlete Instagram and Facebook page. Share, like, and comment, and be genuine all the way. Mind map of what I'm gonna go through, sort of a structure, but with you, let's just whiff it. Yeah, let's just go in and see what happens.
Going like, okay.